Okay, so I always start these videos by saying it's an album review and I'm going to review such and such, but let's face it, you already know because it's in the title of the video which you've clicked on. So we can probably just cut straight to the intro music. So yes, we're reviewing No Prayer for the Dying, the 8th Iron Maiden album which came out in 1990. Now, regulars to this channel, 168 subscribers now, so lots of them. Well, now I have an album Hall of Fame, so there it is. We'll review this, and then it will go somewhere in the Hall of Fame. So I got this album in '92. Fear of the Dark was my first Iron Maiden album, and then obviously I went backwards. Probably not chronologically, I don't remember what order, but at some point that year it got this on a nice vinyl, which I think is actually worth a bit of money, so maybe I should stick it on eBay, because in all honesty, when I listen to it on CD, and I have two of those, the 98 and the more recent one, with the different covers. So yes, this is a Back to Basics album. Adrian Smith's been jettisoned and they're recording it in a barn, going for a more raw, in-your-face production, which is quite evident on the first track, Tailgunner. The lush production of Summer in Time and Seven Sun is long forgotten, and it's back to raw guitars, and obviously a song that harks back to Aces High, although not as good in all ways. It's really a pretty meat and potatoes heavy metal number. It's not quite as sophisticated as Aces High, and obviously the production's not quite as good, so it's a good, fun, enjoyable number, but it's nothing to write home about. With Aces High and Power Slave, you felt they were pushing metal forward. Here they're just kind of sitting back and just doing some fun kind of metal tracks. I guess as an opener, it kind of got more in common with Invaders, which was just, again, that meat and potatoes heavy metal. Whereas the openers on that subsequent albums were a lot more impressive. But yeah, it's a good tune. It's one I've seen in concert once on the real live tour. There's only 2 songs from this album I've ever seen them play. It's that and Bring Your Daughter. It's pretty much the forgotten album live, I would say. It's followed up by first single, Holy Smoke. Now this is a song I really like. I think I've read a contemporary review of it which says it has a bit of a Status Quo riff, which is probably why I really quite like it. I think Dickinson's kind of rougher vocals and the rougher production actually works quite well in this one. It is a quite addictive little riff, and then it's got good lyrics, good fun chorus, and the guitar solo is really good. It's a really it's quite a long guitar solo section for, well, I suppose not for Maiden, but for a single song that made number 3 in the UK charts. And there's not many bands over here in the UK that have a top 3 single and then just pretty much forget about it and never play that song live again. But yeah, no, I do love it, and as much as I'm an Adrian Smith fan, I do love Gers' solo on it. And I think it's one of the more fun videos to watch, just them all goofing around in Harris's estate, and along with shots of them in the studio. So yes, this was one of my favourite tunes when I was first getting into the band. So yes, after a couple of up-tempo punchy songs to start the album, they stretch out with the title track, which is a bit more of a sedate intro. Nice, it's got quite a nice guitar melody before Bruce takes over with the words. Quite nicely done. It's probably with this song is where the rough and ready production does let it down. This one could do with a bit more polish and shine, I would have thought. Maybe even some orchestration could have made it into, could have really lifted the song. But and then it goes into obviously a much more up-tempo part of the song, which is it's mainly instrumental with lots of nice guitar parts and solos going on and stuff. But I'm not sure it flows together that brilliantly. It does feel like a couple of distinct parts of songs which they haven't quite melded together perfectly. It's the arrangement's not quite there, and that kind of middle bit, it all seems a bit frenetic as well. It's kind of thing they could have maybe worked on in the studio a bit more, but it's not too bad. And obviously then it goes back down to the slower tempo and the nice little guitar melody and stuff. So it's a decent track, but I think it shows where maybe title tracks have been a real showpiece in previous Maiden albums. This one's not quite there, which is symbolic for the whole album. But it's still a good opening 3 numbers. But I think the album starts to fall down on the next track, Public Enema number 1, and I don't think the use of the word enema in the title really helps. It always kind of gives me negative images and kind of puts me off the song somewhat. And again, this song sounds a bit rushed, as if maybe they've broken free from Adrian complaining about their tempos, and I guess in that atmosphere and in the bar and getting back to basics, it was all probably about being exciting and stuff, which probably maybe a few of the songs took off for that reason. But again, nice instrumental section. I didn't think much of the chorus, so yeah, not a song I would reach for. I think one of the poorest, maybe possibly the poorest song in this album, but maybe not. But next up is an absolute favourite of mine, Fate's Warning. I guess this is what you'd call a deep cut. They played Public Enema number 1 live. There's a live version of that kicking around on one of the single B-sides. But Fate's Warning, I don't think they played live. But I love it. It's got a nice, obvious David Murray intro, and unlike with maybe some of the current albums, it doesn't feel like it's just marking time until the song comes in. It feels like it should be there and it's going somewhere, and it's really nice. But then the song comes in. Obviously, the lyrics are quite Maiden-esque, life and death and fate and whatnot. I quite like them. I enjoy those types of lyrics, and it's a good chorus. But I love the instrumental section, the guitar solo, and then the harmony guitar part, and another guitar solo, and then the end of the guitar solo. I assume Gers, but he's the kind of chaos, and then he just on the whammy bar, that moment there, just perfect. And then it's just back into chorus and out, so it's kind of got a bit of a pop music structure there. So that could have been quite a good single if they'd gone with it. If they'd gone with a third one from the album. Or the side 2 of the album, and Fred doesn't start off with a bang, rather a bit of a mediocre track in the Assassin. Not quite as bad as Public Enema number 1, but it's still not really going anywhere for me. I think it's got a bit of a cumbersome chorus. On the verses, what the 2 guitars are doing is quite nice. They're completely different and contrasting. That works quite well. Again, another good instrumental section. Well, I mean, they are top-notch players, so they are going to throw down some good solos and stuff, but it's probably not enough to lift the track any more than its average album status. I think on my Wasting Love single, there's a live version of this one as well, but I don't think it really. Sometimes when you take songs in the live arena, it can improve them, but I don't think it's the case here. It's still pretty pretty mediocre. I suppose that's the case when you've done a kind of back to basics live feeling sounding record, that when you take it out live it's not going to actually sound much different. Next up we have Run Silent, Run Deep, which is obviously memorable for the lyric about the cunning fox in the chicken's lair, if nothing else. I think it's better than The Assassin, but again it's not great by any stretch of the imagination. Chorus is a bit better, but again, it's just a competent metal tune. If this had been their third album, you can maybe say they were on a nice trajectory, but coming after all the highs of, I guess, Number of the Beast through to Seventh Son, it does, and some of these songs feel a real downward step, and a further downward step into Hooks and You. A song has always confused me, as in Steve Harris, I've seen him in interviews talking about they filmed the video for this because they thought at one point it was going to be a single. And I was just like, would have been a strange choice for a single, because I don't think it might be the worst song on the album. And the only one Smith had a hand in writing, and considering the songs he'd done in the last couple of albums, how commercial and how many hooks they had, and how tuneful they were, it's a real step down there. There's not a very good hook in it. It's a very average kind of guitar riffing at the start. Bruce references 22 as in 22 Acacia Avenue, and I think there's a little talk about it being the continuing saga of Charlotte, but it seems like a bit of a tacked on continuing saga, quite far removed from 22 Acacia Avenue, and all but the house number featured in the song. Again, when they played live, there's a live version of it, which is so as well. But no, it's probably one of the opening three tracks. Probably one of the three tracks. It's probably one of the poorest runs Maiden have committed to record. And but following on from that is obviously the number one hit single. Bring Your Daughter to the Slaughter. It's one of the first songs I ever heard from them. I think the first song I really heard was an old Lucozade advert with Daley Thompson and Phantom of the Opera. But I remember seeing a clip of this on the TV when it was at number one, and I think that's quite good, but not really. I wasn't big on music at the time, so I didn't go out and do anything about it. But it was one of the first things I went out and bought once I'd got into Fear of the Dark and was in this band. And I did love the picture disc for this one. I quite enjoy the alternative artwork on the B side, and obviously written for the film Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4, I think. So the lyrics are not the greatest or the most profound, but throwaway, but they are good fun. And I can see why Harris wanted it off Dickinson. It's a good bombastic track, and I certainly enjoyed it live when I saw them do it on the real live tour. The Bring Your Daughter, Fetch Your Daughter call answer bit at the end. So yeah, I'm never going to proclaim it to Maiden's greatest song, but it's certainly there's a commerciality to it, and it's an enjoyable thump-along metal tune. And one of the better songs on this album. So yeah, I really like that one. Bring Your Daughter to the Slaughter. So they finished off the album with Mother Russia. This was obviously back in the days where Maiden generally just one epic tune per album, which is probably a better ratio than they're doing at the moment. And it usually was the last song on the album, obviously with the exception of The Seventh Son. But of these songs, from Hallowed, Tamerland, Rime of the Ancient Mariner, Alexander the Great, and Seventh Son, Mother Russia probably does hit the bottom of that pile. Musically, it's quite good and fun at times, as if it maybe slightly cheesy, and again, as I was saying for the title track, it's kind of, it does represent where the album sits, and that everything they do on it is just slightly not as good as what they've done previously. So this is not quite as good as an epic track. The chorus isn't brilliant. It's a bit cumbersome. It's kind of like the Priest track, Loch Ness, confess. Kind of reminds me of that, but obviously Mother Russia's far superior. That track's not even listenable. Mother Russia is listenable and quite enjoyable. It just doesn't quite scale the heights as you'd expected from Maiden at the time. I guess it was probably quite a shock to long-term fans at that point. Obviously not to me, as I didn't buy the album when it came out. I got it. I was going backwards. So yeah, I can enjoy that song. Quite like it, but it's not one I'd probably go and reach for. Maybe if I just wanted to listen to some Maiden and something I've not listened to 100 million times before, like many of their other tracks. So yeah, so overall that is No Prayer for the Dying. Decent, couple of high points, decent, a few low points, and nothing disastrous of it. You know, there's still some good qualities. There's still top musicians playing songs. And good to come out and listen to it every now and again. So yes, that's a No Prayer for the Dying album. Put it back on the shelf and go back to listening to the CD. And so here's my individual album tracks, which obviously can be averaged out to give a score for the album, which can then fit in my Hall of Fame. And there it is. And feel free to go and watch the reviews of any of those, or you could always go and listen to some Vantage Point songs. It's on YouTube or on Spotify or Apple Music or wherever you listen to your tunes. Thanks for watching, and here is some point.
Riding down the highway in 110, pedal on the metal, gonna take all the bands. We'll throttle attack, all just in black. Off to start a new life and I'm not coming back. You're telling me it's not